Are we ready to go now? Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, I'm Michael Allen, the District Attorney for the 4th Judicial District, representing El Paso and Teller counties. We just finished up the first advisement with the defendant in the Club Q shooting. He was advised of his rights, constitutional rights. He acknowledged those rights. He is being held without bond pending further proceedings. We have requested a proof evident presumption great hearing, which means that we will continue to try to hold him without bond going forward. The next court date is December 6th, 2022 at 8:30 in the morning in Division 21. There's a potential that that date could change due to scheduling conflicts with defense counsel's schedule. It's my understanding that at least one of the defense attorneys has a scheduling conflict for that date. If we get a new date, we will obviously communicate that out to the public and let people know. One thing I want to make sure that we all understand, though, is that anytime a person is charged with a crime, they are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That exists for this defendant as well. And I also want to reiterate that we're not going to try this case in the courtroom. So I'm only going to be talking about things that happen publicly in a public courtroom setting. Beyond that, I'm not going to answer questions about the investigation, motive developments. I know those are things that people want to hear about, but in order to protect this prosecution and make sure that we have the best effort going forward in this case and to bring justice to the victims in this case, we have to be very careful about the things we say. At that, I would open it up if there are any specific questions. Obviously, we're going to be very limited in what we say, so bear with me if I have to repeat myself several times on that. Formal charges should be happening at the next court date.
More charges.
Formal charges.
More.
Additional.
So formal charges will happen at the next court date. The charges that have been reported in the media are the arrest charges only. We will be reviewing and we'll be filing formal charges at that time. I'm not going to suggest that there will be a specific number, more or less. It will be formal charges, probably by December 6th or whatever the next court date is.
Mr. Allen, is it typical that a defense attorney will have not seen the arrest affidavit for a client before they start representing?
It's very typical in a case like this because that arrest warrant and the accompanying PC affidavit is sealed, meaning that nobody has it until the court releases it to certain people. They obviously asked for that today in the courtroom. We don't object to them having that. At some point that will be released and be publicly available as well. It's just not time for that yet.
Michael, the alleged shooter identifies as non-binary. Does that impact the way you will prosecute this case?
To us, his legal definition in this proceeding is the defendant. Anything else?
Did you try to have his past case unsealed this week?
Nicole, that's a question that I can't get into right now. I think I've talked about that quite a bit in the past, and so in order to protect this thing, if there's a point in the future, I'll be able to answer those questions. Let me get over here. I think
Alan, was there a concern that he wouldn't be physically competent for today's hearing?
There was nothing communicated to me that he would be physically incompetent to be here today to participate in this process. As I said, the court asked very specific questions of him about his constitutional rights, and he acknowledged them. So obviously, appears that he's physically competent to participate.
Did you again discuss possible charges and any enhancements that might come with those charges?
We're going to review for all appropriate charges, and that's all I'm going to say.
Which would be?
All available potential charges we will be reviewing and make the appropriate filing decisions.
The FBI's been involved in this. Are you coordinating with them, or does that happen separately?
There have been a lot of agencies that have worked in this case, FBI, ATF, Colorado Springs Police, obviously the fire department as well. I appreciate all of their hard work in this investigation, and I would just acknowledge that they have been involved.
How will the suspect's identity as being non-binary affect your decision-making when you're looking at bias motivated?
I'm looking at evidence, evidence of what occurred here. That's what we look at when we make filing decisions.
Does a non-binary
I'm going to go over here first, Nicole, sorry.
Mr. Allen, why didn't your office continue prosecuting him in last year's bomb threat charges that he faced?
So you're making a lot of assumptions when you say what you just said. I can't specifically talk about what you're asking about because of sealing statutes in the state of Colorado, but I would just challenge you with the assumption that you made in the way that you asked that question, and that's the end of what I'm going to say about that particular incident. Nicole?
Generally, does a non-binary identification impact a case of this stature of something like this, a shooting at a club that's LGBT,
So again, for my purposes, in every single murder case that I've prosecuted, which have been more than I would care to talk about, I refer to every one of those as defendants, and that's what I will do in this case. And it has no impact on the way that I prosecute this case.
In the state of Colorado, are there any sort of standards for identifying people by their preferred gender choice?
So in the state of Colorado, set out by statute, if somebody is charged with a crime, their designation is as a defendant.
Is the bomb threat case documents?
I've already answered questions about that, and I'm not going to answer any other questions about that. I've said everything I can say about.
You did say that it could be coming soon, so I just wanted an update.
I've said what I said about that. Anything else?
What do you want the victims and families to know going into Thanksgiving tomorrow with what we just had here today?
I want them to know that we are going to be the voice for the victims in the courtroom, and that we will be fighting alongside them through this entire process.
Do you know, is the suspect going to continue to appear via video, or will he start coming in person?
So typically, I can't predict the future, obviously, but typically a defendant in a case like this, the first advisement happens like it did today, remotely by video, and then after that, typically will be in person. I would expect that to happen here, but there's no way for me to know for certain that that will happen.
Could you just reiterate the arrest charges as they stand right now?
So the arrest charges that were authorized by that PC affidavit were 5 counts of first-degree murder, which is with intent and deliberation, and then 5 counts of bias-motivated crimes. Again, we'll be reviewing all of the evidence and making the appropriate filing decisions at the appropriate time.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.